Mario Tennis Fever looks pretty bad. I'm gonna be honest with you. That was just my first impression of the game when we saw it at the Nintendo Direct during the 40th Mario anniversary segment of the Direct. I just can't believe how it looks and how underwhelming I feel after it. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the biggest Mario Tennis fan. It's not like I play it every night before I go to bed or anything, but I enjoyed the first game, being Mario Tennis Aces, pretty well. I liked playing it on the Nintendo Switch 1, and I even played a lot of the older Mario Tennis games back on the GameCube and the Nintendo Wii. I actually really liked Mario Tennis on the Wii. That was so good. Don't talk to me about Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. That was that seemed like nobody liked that game. There was barely any content in that. But anyway, we've come a long way from Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. I better not mention it now. In this video, I want to talk about my first impressions on what we learned about Mario Tennis Fever and why I think it actually looks pretty bad graphically, and what this means for Nintendo Switch 2 games, Nintendo Switch 2 sports games. Now, I can't completely start dogging on it and telling you why it's absolutely horrible without talking about some good stuff that I really actually appreciate. But before I get into that, I just gotta say, welcome to the channel. This is my second channel. I don't usually freestyle. I'm talking without a script though. My main channel, I usually script all the things I want to say about a specific game, but I just want to use this channel as a fun, quick way to get my full thoughts out while I rant and ramble. I want to see if you guys like my opinion and all that fun stuff, and I just want to go more in depth and explain my thoughts and theories on all these new Nintendo news stories, games, all that fun stuff. So if you like that, like and subscribe. I guess you should do that. But bear with me as I'm getting used to talking without a script. This is honestly kind of wild. Anyways, let's start talking about Mario Tennis Fever, because there are some good things about it. First of all, this is the biggest roster in this series. There's 38 playable characters. I don't know how I missed this in the Nintendo Direct, but there's 38 characters. I think Mario Tennis Aces only had about 20 characters, so they're almost doubling the amount of characters in this. Now, who knows if it's actually going to be some good characters or if they're going to kind of pull a Mario Kart World and add a lot of the enemies in. I think that would be pretty cool. We need to see Parabitty-Bud the Goat. We need to see him. But on top of characters, they added these new rackets that you can choose called Fever Rackets, which, by the way, it's just a weird name. I don't know why this game is called Mario Tennis Fever. Why Fever? Is Fever not a bad thing? Who is naming these? Regardless, they made these new Fever Rackets, and it seems like it's kind of like Mario Kart, where you pick your character and then you'll pick your cart or tennis racket in this case, and each of these Fever Rackets have their own abilities. There's 30 of them. Some of them might add ice to the field. Some of them might add some mini mushrooms to the field, but only after your fever gauge is filled up, just by hitting the ball back and forth. It seems like with all of these Mario Tennis games, there's some sort of gimmick that goes on, especially since Ultra Smash. Ultra Smash, you just got big and then you hit the ball, which was honestly probably the worst special ability that they could have added to a game, because I mean, you just become big and then you're OP against a person who's not big. So that was a pretty lame one. And then in Mario Tennis Aces, there was like special abilities that you can use. You could like slow down time sometimes. You could hit fire as well. Like, Mario Tennis games always have these sort of gimmicky special abilities. To me, at least, feel pretty gimmicky and make the game almost feel unbalanced and unfair sometimes, especially with Ultra Smash. But I gotta stop bringing up Ultra Smash. Who knows why am I even talking about this? I don't want to talk about Ultra Smash, but I'm afraid that these Fever Rackets are a little tiny gimmicky. You know what? I like the classic, you hit the rackets back and forth, or the ball back and forth with the rackets, and you call it a day. It's a pure skill game, in my opinion, as Mario sports games should be. I'm mostly kidding. But for the more technical people, there are some still classic shots, like you can top spin, you can slice, you can lob. That's helpful. That's really good. And now apparently you can slide and to have some defensive footwork. At least that's what it says. And I gotta just say, those two new abilities of sliding, those look absolutely awful, but I'll get back to that. I also appreciate that they're adding some new modes, like tournament modes. This new one called Trial Towers, which you pretty much just rank up on this tower after you complete challenges. And then there's a mix-it-up mode. Main example they showed off was Mario hitting the tennis ball at some Wonder Flower, and then a bunch of these flying hippos come flying around. It was actually pretty cool. And of course, the most important and interesting mode, I would say, is Adventure Mode. That looks so crazy. Everybody turns into babies. I said this in my main channel video, which you should check out if you haven't already, but Baby Waluigi is in this game. This is the first appearance of Baby Waluigi. Like, that's so crazy. I feel like I've seen this exact render of Baby Waluigi so many times, but it's never been in an official Nintendo game. at least to my knowledge. But he looks exactly as he should. And also, going back to the characters, there's 38 playable characters, but I think a lot of them are going to be the baby versions of themselves. I'm just saying. I also find it odd that Donkey Kong doesn't have a baby version, because he does in Yoshi's Island on DS, so that's kind of just weird to me, in my opinion. And then they also showed off a couple of smaller things, like swinging your Joy-Con with motion controls, which the Mario Tennis Aces and Mario Tennis Wii also had. First of all, the resolution, overall sharpness of the game is much higher because, you know, it's on the Switch 2. It's gotta be. This is going to be playing in 4K at 60 frames per second, unlike Mario Tennis Aces, which only played at 1080p. So from an actual resolution perspective, it will look better. However, why it looks bad is mainly due to like the laziness, it seems, that Nintendo is giving Mario Tennis. It just feels a little bit lazy. Like the animations, they look much more stiff and floaty than even Mario Tennis Aces. It feels like they spent less time doing this and just making it look clean and everything. For example, when Mario is lunging towards a ball, he doesn't even look like he's jumping or anything. It just looks like he starts levitating towards the ball, like he's flying. It just looks a little off. I also noticed just as people are hitting it, it's not as like slick. It feels a little stiff, hitting it as in hitting the ball. And I think the character models look actually pretty good, but when you go into adventure mode, in the adventure mode trailer, there's like a bunch of toads standing everywhere. Those toads look lifeless. They have no soul or personality at all. They're moving a little bit, but it is not animated well, in my opinion. It looks like there's not even any idle animation. They are just stiff as a board, just standing there. Also, the textures overall. I noticed that in the very first shot of the trailer, there's like a court with some lush grass. It looked really nice. But then later on in the video, there was like flat texture with grass. Didn't look good. Like it looked lazy. There was no textures on the floor. It was just a basic flat grass texture. And I get that some textures need to be flat because of the fact that it's tennis and people play on tennis courts, which are flat. But there was like no high definition texture at all that I could even see. So all of that together just makes this game feel really lazy. And obviously this is the first trailer, so I can't fully judge it. But these graphical things really stand out to me, especially if you're spending $70 on a game and it's a Nintendo Switch 2 game. Literally just boasts graphics and performance, and like that's the main difference with these two systems. So the fact that it's not showing it off a little bit more makes me a little bit concerned. Obviously, Nintendo's a company that has deadlines and they can't spend so much time making every single game look cinematic and spending their entire budget on graphics like, Sony does with all of their cinematic games like Spider-Man and The Last of Us. Like, this is just a Nintendo game. This is just a Nintendo sports game. And I get it's not going to look absolutely perfect, but honestly, with the $70 price tag now and the better graphics that the Switch 2 can handle, I would really think that Nintendo would want to push the limits of the system and show just how graphically intense these games can be. I'm not asking to see Mario's pores on his face, but adding some basic texture to the floor like on the tennis courts and spending a little more time on some of these animations, I think would have gone a long way, especially right now that Nintendo looks, I don't know, I feel like Nintendo just looks really bad in the average consumer's eyes. I feel like everyone just sees Nintendo as cutting corners and charging you more for it. And this game really gives me that vibe, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, this wasn't like a massive game, as we already got a release date for it. Like, the game's done, or at least close to being done. It comes out on February 12th. So it's clear that this is just one of those games that pad out the lineup, especially for Switch 2 releases. But I just expected a little bit more from it. I gotta say though, those CGI trailers, those looked really good. If only they had put that much work into it, but I'm pretty sure this is probably every CGI movie that we see in these trailers. They probably already used them all. I doubt there's many more, maybe one more in the actual game itself. But let me know what you think about Mario Tennis Fever. Does it look bad to you as well, or am I just being too picky with this? Let me know, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this type of video. Okay, thanks, bye.